Eyes on eternity, a family, we live in a world that is loud, distracting, and constantly pulling us in 1,000 different directions. Every headline, every temptation, every struggle is trying to lock our gaze on the temporary. But if you want peace, if you want purpose, if you want power in your walk, then you've got to lift your eyes above the noise and fix them on eternity. See, eternity is not someday. Eternity is shaping your right now. The choices you make today echo forever. The way you treat people, the way you forgive, the way you handle your time, talent, and treasure all of it is being measured on heaven's scale. When you know your destination, you can handle your situation. When you know your future is secure, you can endure the present. That's why storms may come, but they don't control you. Loss may hit, but it doesn't define you. Why? Because you're living with eyes on eternity. So don't let temporary pain steal eternal joy. Don't let passing pleasures make you miss permanent reward. Keep your eyes on the one who holds tomorrow, and you'll find strength for today. Eternity gives perspective. When you begin to see life through the lens of forever, everything in the here and now looks different. Problems that once felt overwhelming start to lose their power when you measure them against the endless glory that is waiting. The things we cry over, the things we stress about, the things we chase after, most of them won't matter 10 years from now, let alone 10,000 years from now. Yet we allow them to dictate our moods, our decisions, and even our faith. That's because we often measure life by days and years instead of by eternity. But when you lift your gaze higher, when you realize this life is only the warm-up before the real game begins, suddenly you gain a sense of balance, a sense of hope, and a sense of clarity that the temporary world cannot give. Think about it this way. A child might cry endlessly because a toy is broken, but an adult knows that toy was never meant to last. In the same way, what breaks our hearts here on earth is often something temporary, something that will fade, rust, or pass away. Eternity reminds us that the brokenness of this world is not the end of the story. Eternity says to us, hold on. Something greater is coming. Without that perspective, we are easily crushed by disappointments and deceived by illusions. With that perspective, we can endure suffering with patience and enjoy blessings with gratitude, knowing neither defines our ultimate destiny. Perspective also affects how we respond to people. If I know eternity is real, then I understand relationships are more valuable than revenge. Forgiveness becomes possible because I know that God is the ultimate judge and that eternity will set all records straight. I don't have to waste my life holding grudges when eternity tells me there's a better way. If I know eternity is real, then I realize that sharing faith, loving well, and investing in people has far more weight than chasing applause or building a temporary name. Eternity pulls me away from selfish living and pushes me toward a legacy that lasts and lets you be real. Life gets hard. Bills pile up, health declines, dreams get delayed, and people let us down. Without eternity in view, it feels like the weight of the world is sitting on your shoulders. But when you know there is a crown beyond the cross, when you know there is glory beyond the grind, when you know there is life beyond the grave, then even in the tears you whisper, this is not the end. That doesn't make the pain disappear, but it does shrink it in comparison to what's coming. It's like running a race. The runner pushes through pain because the finish line is in sight. Eternity is that finish line for the believer. When you embrace eternity as your perspective, you start living differently. Money isn't just money anymore, it's a tool to advance what lasts forever. Time isn't just hours on a clock, it's an investment in what counts. Struggles aren't just burdens, they are opportunities for faith to grow. Everything shifts when you stop measuring life by minutes and start measuring it by eternity. Every choice we make is more than just a decision for the moment. It's an investment in eternity. Too often we treat choices like they vanish once they're made, but in reality they leave echoes that ripple far beyond our immediate circumstances. Words we speak, actions we take, habits we form, they all accumulate into a pattern that will one day stand before God. Scripture says we will give an account for every idle word, every deed done in the body, whether Good or bad, that means nothing is wasted, nothing slips through unnoticed, eternity records it all. This should not create fear so much as it should create focus. If we know our choices echo forever, then suddenly what we choose becomes a matter of eternal weight, not just earthly convenience. That conversation you had with your coworker might be forgotten by you tomorrow, but God can use it to plant a seed that lasts forever. That moment when you chose to extend kindness instead of anger might not make headlines here, but it resounds in heaven. On the other hand, every compromise, every selfish act, every moment we trade obedience for convenience leaves its own imprint. Eternity makes us sober about sin, but also inspired about obedience. Nothing is wasted, and everything counts. The truth is, our lives are like arrows shot into the future. Once released, they can't be pulled back. Every choice is setting a trajectory. If you sow to the flesh, you reap corruption. If you sow to the Spirit, you reap life everlasting. That's not just poetic language. It's the law of eternity. What you feed today grows tomorrow. What you neglect today withers tomorrow. Think of a farmer. He doesn't see a harvest overnight, but every seed he drops into the soil is a choice that determines his future. Likewise, your choices are seeds falling into eternity's ground. The harvest will come, and it will be either joy or regret, depending on what you planted. This is why little things matter. It's not only about grand gestures or life-changing moments. It's about the consistency of daily choices, the decision to pray when no one is watching, the decision to walk away from gossip when everyone else leans in, the decision to honor God with your finances when the world says keep it all. Each of these choices may seem small, but they echo in eternity with thunder. What looks like a whisper here is a roar in heaven. When we understand that choices echo forever, we begin to ask different questions. Instead of what do I feel like doing, we ask what will this mean in eternity? Instead of how does this benefit me right now, we ask how does this build a treasure that moth and rust can't destroy? That shift in perspective changes how we treat people, how we spend our time, and how we guard our hearts. Life is no longer random or meaningless, because eternity tells us that every moment matters. When you know your destination, it reshapes how you handle your situation. Imagine a traveler sitting in an airport during a long delay. If that traveler doesn't know where they're going, every extra hour feels like chaos and confusion. But if they hold a confirmed ticket to a beautiful destination, they can endure the wait because they know the delay doesn't cancel the destination. Life is filled with delays, detours, and disappointments, and if all you see is the present, it feels unbearable. But when you know eternity is secure, when you know where your soul is headed, then the storms of today lose their power to break you. This is why hope is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Without hope, trials feel like permanent prisons, but with hope those same trials feel like temporary tunnels leading to light. The promise of eternity gives you strength to endure what others would collapse under. It's not because the pain is lighter, it's because your perspective is greater. A person running a marathon keeps moving, not because their legs don't hurt, but because their eyes are fixed on the finish line. In the same way, when your eyes are on eternity, you press through difficulty because you know the reward that awaits you far outweighs the struggle. Knowing your destination also guards you against distraction. People who don't know where they're going wander aimlessly, chasing whatever seems appealing in the moment. But when you know your eternal destiny, you live with focus. You stop giving energy to things that don't matter. You stop letting people's opinions define your worth. You stop wasting time chasing pleasures that vanish. Why? Because you understand that life is not about comfort, it's about calling. Life is not about collecting trophies here, it's about preparing treasures there. Eternity keeps you centered on what truly matters. This perspective changes how you carry burdens. Think of someone carrying a heavy suitcase. If they don't know where they're headed, the suitcase feels like punishment. But if they know it's carrying the tools they'll need for a new life at their destination, they carry it with patience. In the same way, the weight of life's trials doesn't crush you when you know eternity is certain. Every struggle becomes preparation. Every test becomes training. Every tear becomes testimony. What others see as a burden, you begin to see as a bridge to something greater. And perhaps most importantly, knowing your destination gives peace in uncertainty. The world is full of chaos, economic shifts, wars, sickness, injustice. If your hope is tied to this world, you will constantly be shaken. But when your hope is tied to eternity, you live unshaken. You can grieve without despair because you know death is not the end. You can give generously without fear because you know your supply comes from a greater source. You can serve humbly without seeking applause because you know there is a crown that never fades waiting at the end of the journey. Don't trade the eternal for the temporary. That's one of the greatest deceptions the world has to offer, convincing us to exchange what lasts forever for what will fade in a moment. The temporary always looks attractive because it shines brighter in the now, but the eternal is always more valuable because it shines forever. Too many people have settled for crumbs on earth while a feast waits in heaven, all because the crumbs were in reach while the feast required faith. The danger is not that the temporary exists. The danger is that we begin to mistake it for the ultimate. This is exactly how temptation works. Temptation is an invitation to trade eternal reward for temporary relief. It whispers, "Take this shortcut. No one will know. You deserve this moment," but it never shows you the cost. A bowl of stew cost Esau his birthright. 30 pieces of silver cost Judas his soul's peace. A moment of pleasure has cost countless people a lifetime of regret. When you measure your choices only by what they give you now, you risk losing what God has prepared for you later. The eternal calls you to wait, to trust, to invest in things unseen. The temporary lures you to grab, to hurry, to satisfy yourself with less. One satisfies for a moment, the other satisfies forever. This truth also applies to how we handle our priorities. The temporary shouts loudly, jobs, bills, possessions, status. They demand attention every day. The eternal often whispers, prayer, faith, obedience, love, service. It doesn't demand your attention, it invites it. And because the eternal whispers, it's easy to neglect it while you chase the noise of the temporary. But here's the reality: the temporary will always end. Promotions fade, bank accounts fluctuate, health declines, applause dies down. If your identity is tied to these things, when they fade, you will fade with them. But when your identity is tied to eternity, you are anchored to something unshakable. Trading the eternal for the temporary is also dangerous because it blinds us to what truly satisfies. Temporary things can never fill an eternal soul. That's why people who achieve everything the world calls success often feel empty inside. The car gets old, the thrill of money wears off, the applause quiets, and the soul still hungers. Only eternal things, God's presence, His word, His promises, can satisfy a heart that was made for forever. The tragedy is that people keep reaching for the next temporary fix instead of anchoring themselves to the eternal source. Living with eternity in mind helps you enjoy temporary blessings without becoming enslaved to them. God gives us good gifts in this life, but they are meant to point us toward Him, not replace Him. When you know eternity is your true home, you can enjoy blessings with gratitude rather than cling to them with fear. You hold loosely to what fades so you can hold tightly to what lasts. You learn to use time, money, and opportunities for eternal impact rather than wasting them on temporary satisfaction. In the end, the question is simple: will you live for what will pass away, or will you live for what will remain forever? Fix your eyes upward, because where you look determines how you live. If your eyes are always locked on the problems around you, you will be weighed down by fear, frustration, and fatigue. But if your eyes are lifted toward the eternal, you gain strength, peace, and Purpose that this world cannot take away. What you focus on shapes your reality. When Peter stepped out of the boat to walk on water, he did the impossible as long as his eyes were fixed on Jesus. The moment he looked at the waves, he began to sink. That lesson has not changed. If you fix your eyes on the storm will control you. If you fix your eyes upward, the storm loses its power over you. Fixing your eyes upward means training your heart to see beyond the visible. The visible world shouts at us every day. Bills, deadlines, sickness, conflict. It demands attention and makes itself look more real than anything else. But Scripture reminds us that the unseen is eternal. The unseen is where God is moving, shaping, and preparing. To fix your eyes upward is to remind yourself daily that what you see is not all there is. There's a greater reality that governs everything beneath it. That means no matter how dark the night looks, the sun is still on its way. No matter how heavy the burden feels, glory is still ahead. When you fix your eyes upward, you begin to draw strength from the right source. Too many people look around for strength, from people's approval, from material success, from temporary motivation, and wonder why they keep running out of fuel. Strength that comes from the earth will always run dry because the earth itself is passing away. But strength that comes from above is endless. It's like plugging into a power source that never loses current. Fixing your eyes on God's eternal kingdom gives you a resilience that circumstances cannot crush. You learn to stand when others fall, to hope when others despair, to endure when others quit. Fixing your eyes upward also gives you peace. Peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of perspective. When your gaze is upward, you realize that the chaos of earth is temporary, but the order of heaven is permanent. You stop letting today's news steal tomorrow's hope. You stop letting setbacks define your worth. You stop letting worry consume your joy. Peace comes not because the waves are gone, but because your eyes are not on the waves. They are on the one who walks above them. Finally, fixing your eyes upward gives your life purpose. The upward gaze reminds you that you were not made just to survive, but to serve a greater kingdom. Your work, your gifts, your time, your relationships, all of them become tools in the hands of eternity. You stop living just to get through the day, and you start living to make a difference that outlasts the day. Fixing your eyes upward keeps you aligned with heaven's agenda, so that when the final chapter of your story is written, it won't just echo on earth. It will echo in eternity. Thank you.